It was a rainy night, and I was alone in my small apartment, flipping through the channels on my TV, when I received a mysterious call on my cell phone. The voice on the other end was cold and menacing, telling me that I was being hunted by a notorious hitman. My heart skipped a beat as fear gripped me like a vice. I couldn't fathom why someone would want to kill me, but I knew I had to do whatever it took to survive. I quickly packed a bag, grabbed my car keys, and slipped out of the apartment, taking care not to alert anyone to my departure. The adrenaline surged through my veins as I raced through the dark streets, my mind racing with a million thoughts. Who was after me? Why me? How did they find me? As I drove, my emotions were in turmoil. Fear, panic, and desperation gnawed at me with every passing second. I constantly checked my rearview mirror, expecting to see a black sedan tailing me, or catch a glimpse of a shadowy figure lurking in the shadows. The sense of being hunted was overwhelming, and I couldn't shake off the feeling of being constantly watched. I decided to seek help from the authorities, but as I entered the police station, I realized that the hitman could have connections and could be one step ahead of me. I was on my own. I had to rely on my wits and instincts to survive. I went off the grid, constantly changing my location, using fake names, and avoiding crowded places. Every step I took was calculated, and my senses were heightened to the max. The smallest sound or movement would send me into a state of high alert. The hitman was relentless, leaving me chilling messages, taunting me with his intentions to end my life. Each time I received a new threat, my fear intensified. I couldn't trust anyone, and paranoia crept into my every thought. I became a shadow, constantly on the move, trying to stay one step ahead of my pursuer. One night, as I sought refuge in an abandoned building, I heard footsteps echoing through the halls. My heart pounded in my chest as I crouched in the darkness, clutching a broken piece of pipe as my only weapon. The footsteps grew closer, and I could hear the heavy breathing of my stalker. I held my breath, praying that I wouldn't be discovered. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, I sprang into action, swinging the pipe at the figure that emerged from the shadows. There was a sickening thud as the pipe connected with flesh, and my attacker groaned, stumbling back. I took my chance and sprinted through the building, crashing through windows, and jumping over debris, narrowly avoiding gunfire that echoed through the building. The chase continued through the night, with the hitman hot on my heels. I ducked into alleys, scaled fences, and scrambled over rooftops, my heart pounding in my throat with each daring escape. I was physically and mentally exhausted, but the will to survive pushed me on. As dawn broke, I found myself at the edge of a cliff overlooking a raging river below. There was nowhere left to run. The hitman had caught up with me, his cold eyes filled with malice as he raised his gun, ready to deliver the final blow. With a surge of desperation, I lunged forward, tackling him with all my remaining strength. We tumbled over the cliff, locked in a deadly struggle, the sound of gunshots echoing through the air. The impact of the fall was brutal, the icy river swallowing us both. Underwater, I fought to break free from the hitman's grip, struggling to reach the surface for air. My lungs burned, and my vision blurred as I desperately clawed my way up, gasping for breath as I broke through the water's surface. The hitman was nowhere to be seen. I scanned the riverbank, fearing that he would emerge and continue his pursuit. But there was no sign of him. The current was strong, sweeping me downstream towards a narrow gorge lined with sharp rocks. I swam with all my remaining strength, desperately trying to avoid the treacherous obstacles in my path. The adrenaline surged through my body, numbing the pain of my injuries and pushing me to my limits. The rushing water threatened to drag me under, but I fought against it with all my might, driven by the will to survive. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I managed to reach the calmer waters downstream. Exhausted and battered, I dragged myself out of the river, collapsing onto the rocky riverbank, panting heavily. As I lay there, a mixture of relief and disbelief washed over me. I had survived. I had evaded the deadly hitman who had been hunting me, and I had escaped a fate that seemed inevitable just moments ago. But the nightmare was far from over. I knew that the hitman could still be out there, waiting for another opportunity to strike. I had to keep moving, stay vigilant, and find a way to disappear completely off the grid. My emotions were a whirlwind of fear, anxiety, and paranoia. I couldn't trust anyone, and every sound or movement sent me into a state of panic. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. I traveled from one place to another, constantly changing my appearance and identity, living in constant fear of being discovered. I became a ghost, always on the run, haunted by the memories of that fateful night and the relentless pursuit of the hitman. Despite my best efforts to stay hidden, I couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. The paranoia never left me, and my sanity began to unravel. Sleep became a luxury, as every night was plagued by nightmares and flashbacks of the harrowing chase. I was consumed by fear and anxiety, constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering when the hitman would find me again. Then, one day, I received a mysterious package at a remote location where I was hiding. Inside was a chilling message, written in blood-red ink, telling me that the hitman had found me once again. My heart skipped a beat as I realized that I was running out of options. Determined to end this once and for all, I made a desperate decision. I would confront the hitman head-on, and try to outwit him. I set up a meeting at an abandoned warehouse, knowing that it could be a trap. But I had no other choice. It was my only chance to end the nightmare. As I entered the dark, eerie warehouse, my heart pounded in my chest. The air was thick with tension, and I could feel the weight of the impending showdown. I had no weapon, no backup. It was just me against the hitman. He emerged from the shadows, his cold eyes locking onto mine. He taunted me with his knowledge of my every move, reveling in my fear. But I refused to let him see my weakness. I stood my ground, ready to face whatever was coming. The hitman lunged at me, and we engaged in a deadly hand-to-hand combat. Every punch, every kick, every move was fueled by sheer desperation. I dodged his attacks, using my surroundings to my advantage. The stakes were high, and the tension was palpable. As the fight raged on, I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins, my senses heightened to the extreme. My body screamed with pain, but I pushed through, fueled by a fierce determination to survive. The hitman was skilled, relentless, and ruthless. But I fought with everything I had. We exchanged blow after blow, each strike bringing us closer to the edge of exhaustion. The warehouse echoed with the sounds of our battle, the scent of blood and sweat filling the air. At one point, the hitman managed to land a devastating blow, sending me crashing to the ground. I felt a sharp pain shoot through my side as I struggled to get back up, my vision blurry. But I refused to give up. I had come too far to let it all end here. With a surge of strength, I managed to deliver a calculated counterattack, catching the hitman off guard. He stumbled back, and I seized the opportunity to grab a nearby pipe, using it as an improvised weapon. I swung with all my might, landing a critical blow to his side. The hitman grunted, a look of surprise and anger flickering across his face. He tried to retaliate, but I kept pressing forward, delivering blow after blow with the pipe until he was finally subdued. He fell to the ground, unconscious. I stood there, panting heavily, my body battered and bruised, but a sense of relief and triumph surging through me. I had done it. I had defeated the hitman and survived against all odds. But as I looked around, I realized that the warehouse was rigged with explosives. The hitman had set a trap to take me down with him. The timer was ticking down rapidly, and I had no time to escape. With adrenaline-fueled desperation, I sprinted towards the exit, navigating through the maze of debris and obstacles. The seconds felt like hours as I raced against time, knowing that one wrong move could be my last. Just as I reached the exit, the explosives detonated, unleashing a massive blast that rocked the warehouse, sending debris flying everywhere. I was thrown through the air, the force of the explosion slamming into me. Everything went black. When I regained consciousness, I found myself lying amidst the rubble, my body battered and broken. But I was alive. I had survived the explosion, the hitman, and the nightmare that had been haunting me for so long. In the aftermath, the authorities arrived, and I was taken into custody. The investigation revealed a twisted web of deceit and conspiracy, involving the hitman and those who had hired him. I was cleared of any wrongdoing, and the hitman's identity remained a mystery. Months passed, and I slowly healed from my physical wounds. But the emotional scars remained, a constant reminder of the horrors I had experienced. I learned to be cautious, to trust only a select few, and to always be on my guard. As I looked back on that dark chapter of my life, I realized how much I had changed. I had faced death head-on, survived against all odds, and emerged stronger in the end. It was a harrowing journey that had tested my limits and pushed me to the brink, but I had come out on the other side. Today, I live a quiet, secluded life, far away from the shadows of my past. But the memories of the hitman and the nightmare still linger, a constant reminder of the fragility of life and the darkness that lurks in the shadows. I will never forget the harrowing ordeal I went through, and it has forever changed me. But I am determined to keep moving forward, living each day to the fullest, and never taking my second chance at life for granted.